All right, guys, let me just tell you, we've been on a roller coaster of a ride. All of the tech issues for the last like 25 minutes trying to record this, the technology gods said, you shall not hear this episode today. We're going to make it happen. Becca has been trying all sorts of mics and headphones and all sorts of things. We are going to make it happen for you today. And this episode is going to be so worth it. So, with all that being said, today's episode is all about boundaries and creating systems and what has allowed Becca and her team and also her clients to work less while increasing their bottom line. So I would love to know, Becca, what is your entrepreneur story and how was Homemade Social born?
Okay, great question. And we're on mic number two, headphones number two. We've tried two USB-C adapters. We're just,
Two applications. We were on Zencaster, now
yes,
we're on Zoom.
we're trying everything, but we're tenacious and that's all that matters. We just celebrated Homemade Social's 5th birthday not too long ago. So exciting. But my entrepreneurship journey started about 2 years before that. I started doing some freelance work at my last 9 to 5 job just to make extra money. And in the summer of 2017, I actually took a Facebook ads course, like an online course. And in a way, like both of those things were ahead of the time, I would say. In 2017, there weren't a lot of online courses. Like that was like the very beginning of online course days. And there also weren't a lot of women in their early 20s learning how to manage Facebook ads. Like it was me and I felt like a bunch of 40-year-old dudes. And so having both of those things, having that skill set really, I think, set me apart as a freelancer. And I think I spent like $900 on that course and I spent my own money. I thought about asking my employer to help me pay for it because I was obviously going to use some of the knowledge at my last job.
Yeah.
But part of me was like, I have a feeling that I'm going to want to do this myself and run with it and monetize it. And so I took the leap and I paid $900, which was a ton of money to me when I was like 22 or 23. I think I was 22. And that is the course that kind of changed my trajectory and also gave me the confidence to go after different clients and pitch myself to brands. Because like at that time, Facebook was a gold mine for advertising for small businesses. You could spend not a ton and still see great results. So there's a lot of ROI to be had. So I officially quit my 9 to 5 in October of 2017. And then Homemade Social was officially born like a year and a half later in February of 2019. So that's a long story short, how I got to be where we are today.
I love that. And was Homemade Social, was that just like you getting that started, or was that when you started hiring people on and then you're like, hey, let's rebrand, make this into Homemade Social, or what did that look like?
So I quickly realized as I was just being like solopreneur freelancer that within like less than with maybe 7 months later, I was already really busy
Yeah.
and was starting to drop the ball on a couple client stuff. And I was like, crap, I need to start hiring for help. And so it was funny because I went into my self-employment journey being like, I never want to own an agency, but I think that's because I had only ever worked or interned at agencies that were just like really poorly managed and
Yeah.
had no boundaries, had no work-life balance. And I was just like, that's not what I want. And then it's funny because it's ultimately what I built. And I think having that vision for what I didn't want really helped me to build what I did want.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I I know we're talking about boundaries and systems, but a question that I get asked so often, I would love to ask you as well, is what did it look like when it came to that very first hire for you? Because I know that can be scary, like bringing people on.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find that person to hire? Did you end up keeping them for very long? Are they still working for you?
Good
What did that
question.
whole process look like?
So the good news is at my previous job, I was in charge of marketing all of our previous like hiring and internship openings. So I had marketed for hiring roles and like filling roles before. And so I used a lot of the same like tools and resources I had used for that. So I remember Googling like how to write a job description or like a internship opening
Yeah.
description. And then I submitted it to a couple of different places, one of them being Handshake. I don't know if you have heard of that. It's
Yeah.
an awesome tool for finding interns and getting connected to local universities. But the catch was you need to have, or at least you did in 2018, you needed to be able to show proof of like physical office address because these universities don't want to send their students to a place where they're working from someone's house.
Yeah.
And I was working out of my house at the time. And I was also doing a little bit of influencer work. Like I probably this time I was close to around 10,000 Instagram followers in 20, I don't know, 2017.
Yeah.
And I was approached by a co-working space to have a free membership as a entrepreneur. And I was like, this is divine timing.
Yeah.
So I was able to use that as my business address, posted and was able to get some interns under my belt. And I had imposter syndrome. Like I was 23, I think at the time. And some of the girls I was mentoring or were interning for me, they were like 21, 22. And I was just like, why are they going to listen to me?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. And I really hadn't managed self-sufficiently like a team before.
Yeah.
I just had never been like trained to be a manager. It was just a lot of trial and error. But when it came time, like 7 months later, to make a hire, I chose my best intern, offered her a part-time gig as like a contractor, a freelancer for me,
Yeah.
just to test it. And it worked out great. And that's how I made that first hire.
I love that. And I feel like your journey is so different for hiring than a lot of people's journeys, at least that I've talked to, and at least in my own personal experience. What made you go with an intern and doing an internship before hiring versus just like going out to find someone who was like a freelancer at the time?
I think it's just because it's what I was comfortable with. Like from my previous role, I really had done a lot of management of the interns at that job, and I had seen how it was a good way to like test and train someone for a semester before potentially offering them a better role.
Yeah.
And so, because I didn't necessarily have a huge need for part-time help when I first posted this internship, I was just like, I think it would be smart to post about it.
Yeah.
It just it worked out really conveniently that I was able to pull from them because so much time and effort goes into training. And so,
Yeah.
especially when you're a solopreneur, like if you're already working 40 hours a week and then you have to spend like 10 hours a week for a couple weeks training someone new to be like self-sufficient, it can be very draining. So I was like, I've already trained this girl. I feel like I can double dip here.
Yeah. And looking back on your journey, would you still have gone about it the same way like today?
That's a great question. And I don't know if I would have. Because
Ooh,
I think that it would have been smarter for me to start off hiring people who maybe had more experience who I didn't have to spend time training.
okay.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like it all worked out. So who knows? It could have bought me some time had I just hired someone who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, which this will be my last question on hiring before we go into
No,
boundaries.
that's okay. I love
So much
this.
juiciness around boundaries that I want to get to.
Yeah.
But my question for you around hiring is a lot of people think exactly what you were just saying, which is like you hire on someone and then you spend a lot of time working with
Hmm.
them to make sure that they have the skill set to be able to support you in the ways that you need them to support you. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who don't hire because there's a lot of anxiety around that. I'm already working
Hmm.
40 hours a week. I'm already like my capacity is already at
Yeah.
max. So like how could I possibly bring someone on to train them to be able to support, like I don't even have the capacity to bring someone on to support me? What would you say to that person?
I would say it's going to bite you in the butt. Like you have to find a way to get someone to help you, or else you're just going to be drowning and you're never going to be able to scale. Like I think that first ripping off the band-aid with the hire and the training is the the hardest part. Because once you get a feel for like training that first hire and realizing how much effort goes into the hiring process between posting the job listing, doing your interviews, conducting like a project if you want to, like so much time gets
Yeah.
invested into that, that by the time you have hired this person, you're like, I will do anything to make this work out.
Yes.
And so I think that, I don't know, I would tell them to just do it now because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that is one of the biggest aspects, in my opinion,
Hmm.
of scaling a sustainable business is being
Yes.
able to bring people on. And I think it was Alex Hormozy who was, I think he posted about this or maybe it was like a YouTube video or something, but he was just talking, or no, I think someone else was talking about Alex Hormozy's post and how
Okay.
is really good at hiring people. And I think it was another female entrepreneur who's like a business coach. And she was talking about how that is something that like, for whatever reason, males are really good at doing is like bringing on help for whatever reason. And I don't necessarily believe that this is like an umbrella statement. Obviously there are people out there who
Yeah, no,
don't
I'm
fit
just
this, but like
curious.
I totally fit this where I was like, reading this post, and it was so true for me where like I waited so long to hire people, but once I started hiring people I was like, why did I wait so long? For me, like being able to get to the point where I'm at in my business, like I had to have hired. And so that was just so interesting to
Yeah.
me to read that post of like, males are so good at asking for help and getting that support, like why are we as females not good at that?
That's so true. And another piece of advice I would give in this hypothetical situation is if, say, like she's really hesitant to do that hire, start doing the back end work for when you are ready to maybe make that hire now. Start documenting like everything you do that you might need to train someone on in the future by creating a loom really quick when you go to schedule your client's content for the week, or have all your systems and to-do set up in a tool like Asana, which plug, we have an Asana template that we sell that allows you to like delegate things so easily.
I
So
love
that
that.
way, like if someone were to leave your organization, it's so easy to find the missing pieces and reassign those things that were previously assigned to them to someone new too. It's just,
Love
yeah.
that. Okay, that, oh, go ahead, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I thought of one more thing that we're doing. So
Yes.
every semester we onboard new interns still at Homemade Social. And we get feedback every semester that it's just like a lot of information in one day, but there's just no other way to do it. We've foreshadowed this, we tell them this, we're like, just so you know, day one is a lot, but you just got to get through it.
Yeah.
And now we had this idea, feel free to steal it. We're putting all of our internship onboarding information and trainings into Kajabi, going to make it a private course, and we're going to send them access to it like when we
Ooh.
give them their offer. So that way they'll be like expected to just at least familiarize themselves with the content, and then we'll review it with them again on day one. That way it's just not like a shock to them.
No, I love that so much. And I have definitely, because I've been in the social media management role as well. And I've
Yeah.
also been on the side of hiring other people too. So I feel like I've seen both sides of it. And I definitely agree where when I was being a social media manager and moving into those roles to be able to support these business owners, there was just so much. It was just like
Yeah.
so overwhelming, like the passwords and the management and like
Hmm.
just learning brand voice and brand color and like Google Docs
Yeah.
and Google folders of like just like hundreds of
And to
you know,
someone who maybe has never used Later before, or to someone who has never used a tool like Asana or Slack before, if this is literally their first internship, it
yeah.
can be so overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. I love that so much, which I feel like that segues so well into boundaries and systems because I
Mm,
feel like if you have these things put in place, even before you go about hiring, it's just going
it's a
to be,
breeze.
yeah,
Yeah.
a breeze. And I'm so glad that we're diving into this conversation around boundaries today because I think boundaries are one of the biggest anxiety points for entrepreneurs because it can feel like you're closing yourself off from your clients sometimes and that you're
Hmm.
not going to be able to really serve them at the highest level or provide a really good customer experience, or that it can sometimes even feel like you're trying to control like the clients through these boundaries. So what would you say to someone who feels that way or is thinking, has that mindset around boundaries?
I would say I think it's very common, especially when people are starting out, to feel that way because you're coming at it oftentimes from like a scarcity mindset where if I don't allow this client to text me at 7 p.m., they're going to fire me and I'm not
Yeah.
going to have this client. And so I think it's just is so important to figure out your boundaries before you onboard your clients, right? Being able to communicate your boundaries at a high level, even on a discovery call with a potential client, just be like, hey, just want to give a heads up. We aren't available outside of office hours. XYZ, here are others, some boundaries that we enforce. We just wanted to confirm and be upfront with you that this is okay before we proceed with our relationship. Like that sort of thing, because but 9 times out of 10 I'll say that like clients are usually very happy to oblige because they know that we will also respect their out of offices or their time equally, so it goes two ways.
I love that. And I love how you positioned it as like you're almost setting the example for your clients
Mm,
in the fact that like they need to also have boundaries. But I think something else that comes up here a lot as well is it's easy for you to say like that you need to have boundaries because you already have clients, you already have a successful business. So what would you say to someone who's like at the very beginning of their business? Are boundaries necessary? And like how do you go about setting boundaries at the beginning of your business when you don't have a full roster of clients?
yeah, I would look and see, do just an audit of what areas of your client management are bringing you the most like distress. And a lot of times it's going to be like those clients who text you at 9 p.m. or having to post for this client at this hour every week, or so, is probably going to, that's just my guess. I don't know if you have better examples there, but I know that those are really common ones for social media managers. And I think that's because social media is on 24/7. And so clients can just sometimes expect us to be on 24/7 as well. So I get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what about for people who don't take on clients? So people who are the solopreneurs,
Mm,
what would
yeah.
what advice would you give to them?
Oh, that's great. Okay, I have some tools. Take out your notebooks, everyone. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Okay, there's a fantastic app. It's called Open Phone,
Mm,
and it allows you to have a secondary phone number associated with your business, but still on your phone. So you don't have to have a secondary device or anything. It's just an app on your phone. I believe it's $15 a month. Actually, Homemade Social, we have an affiliate discount for it. I forget, I think it's a link, but if you go to our website, you can find it. Maybe I can give it to you. You can put it in the show notes.
yeah.
It will get you 20% off your first 3 months. And it's an app and it will automatically send calls outside of business hours to voicemail or text outside of business hours, an automatic message. If you are running an e-commerce shop and you have a support phone number or anything like that, or if you give your number to your clients,
Yeah.
it just allows you to have a little bit of a buffer between giving them your personal number and giving them this other phone number. The
Yeah.
other great thing is it has a desktop app. You can, just like using iMessage on your computer, you can correspond with your clients that way.
Yeah.
And it syncs with Slack. So you can make it a Slack channel. And so your team can see all incoming messages or
Ooh,
calls. There's so many benefits to that. There's also an amazing app called Opal. Do you use that yet?
no, I've
Opal.
never even heard of it.
It's like the iPhone screen time limitation settings, but like times 100. It allows for so much extra customization. My favorite feature I use on it is like the doom scrolling auto shut off. So I have it set up. If I'm on Instagram or TikTok for more than 15 minutes straight, it kicks me off for 15 minutes.
Ooh, I
So
love
it's
that.
like, yeah, so that you can get really custom with it and you can make it really easy or really hard to break your limitation. But I use it during the week too. I usually use it between 10 a.m. and 3. And that can be hard working in social because sometimes I do need to go on social, but I can go on desktop if I like have to go to a feed post or something, but it helps a lot.
I love that. And then I think in your intake form, you also talked about you like your calendar. What are some tools that you use for that, or what are some boundaries that you have in place with your calendar?
Yeah, so I use Acuity or a tool like Calendly to dictate how we have meetings and calls with discovery calls or whatever. I try and make it so that I only take discovery calls on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We have no internal or external meetings on Fridays. And then for reoccurring client meetings, we always have, I could just give it away. We make sure all client meetings are always reoccurring and that there's always one on the calendar. And I found that is a really great way to prevent the like awful email or text you get from a client where it's like, hey, can we hop on a call right now? Because it's like, hey, can this wait till we are scheduled to meet on Thursday? Or is it possible to cover off email? Like they appreciate that you have time blocked off to correspond with them.
I love that. And the other one that's coming to my mind, because I am so bad at this, email. What about boundaries for email?
Mm. Okay, I don't have the Gmail app on my phone. And actually, I do, but I do not have it logged into my work phone or my work email. So in our contract, we have that we're available to our clients during office hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday. Then we have half days on Fridays. And I'm mostly at my laptop during my workday anyways. If I'm out at a client meeting or at a client shoot, we have it in our contract that we technically have 24 hours to get back to you, 24 business hours. So if something urgent does come up, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be able to get back to them right away. And if not, if it's something that I can get back to them the next day, I have it in writing that they agreed that's fine. I think that helps a lot. And if there is an emergency where I'm not near my laptop and I need to check my email, I can go to Chrome and go to gmail.com. It's not as user friendly, but in an emergency, it's fine. That way I'm not getting notifications or emails from clients or anything outside of work hours. Once I close my laptop, I'm off.
I love that. And I love that you've made it hard to get access to that. It's not, oh, I just moved the Gmail app to a different
A hidden place.
page.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
No.
something like that. It's no, you got to go to Safari and log.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of steps. And for me, anytime Anytime that there's a lot of steps to get something done, I'm going to think
Mhm.
twice about whether or not I actually need to do that thing. So I love that.
And if you start doing it, it makes you realize even if you check your email just habitually, the amount of mental time you'll be spending thinking about what you just checked in your inbox is so not worth it. Even if you aren't taking action on anything, if you're just keeping track of what's in your inbox,
Yeah.
the mental energy and capacity that that's taking up for you is bad. So I'm just team no email on your phone.
I love that. And that leads me to my question, which is what were you noticing in your business and with your clients that made you realize that things needed to change and that
Oh,
balance needed
yeah.
to be put into place?
Great question. So a lot of this, it always, I feel like comes back to one awful client, right? Who like just walks all over you.
Relatable.
And this was actually in 2020. And so it was a toxic year to begin with, a toxic time to be living in the world of social media. And I don't know if your business can relate, but like the first month of quarantine, my business tanked. Like I lost some clients, and then all of a sudden it exploded right back 30 days later because so many businesses had to move their marketing efforts online, which was great. But I didn't have these boundaries in place. And so I was just like, even if I wasn't working all the time, I was like thinking about work all the time. And clients would DM me like requests to my personal account. So I couldn't even enjoy social media from like a person, like as a human. And I literally started to resent it. So I met with an attorney and I was like, hey, here are some areas of my business that like I don't enjoy. And she helped me to create some workarounds and some policies that would help that. And we actually do sell a contract template based on ours in our shop.
I love that. And that's so interesting that you went to a lawyer for that. Was it specifically
Mm.
for the contract side of things, or what was?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. So it was specifically for contract stuff. So I went through the whole contract with her. I was like, hey, like I also added in provisions about, okay, when we send content for review, I want to make it so that clients have 48 hours. And then if they go past the 48-hour mark, they get billed at an hourly rate. Because we have to have systems. Because
Yeah.
in the world of social media, you have to think of us like a digital magazine, because if it was a magazine, what's going off to print and you can't make edits. So like you have to have that same mentality for I was gonna say for homemade social, for social media in a way. But it was interesting because once we had the contract in place, some clients would then still unknowingly, I'd like to think, break the boundaries. And so then I got stuck in a place where I was like, how do I communicate this to them when I'm like a people pleaser? So it's, hey, actually, I can't, like, I'm off for the day. I didn't know how to say that. And so then we hired a communications coach. Her name is Jenna. Her business is Career Civility. We did a 3-month training with her, and she basically helped us to develop all these like email templates that we can plug and copy and paste when someone like doesn't follow a boundary or a contract rule or something
Can you
in a
give us
very
an
professional way.
Yeah, can you give us an example of, let's just say that I come to you for extra revisions, like how are you going to approach that?
We'll be like, hey, client, thanks so much for taking the time to review. We did want to flag that since the 24 or the 48-hour deadline has passed, these will need to be made at our hourly rate. Do you approve of us doing so? Just that thing, like we put in
Yeah.
the hourly rate to not to make more money, but to encourage them to follow the 48-hour mark as closely as we can.
Yeah, and I love that too, because I think a lot of times for me, when I go to respond to things like that, sometimes I'm like over explaining. And I love that was just like short, sweet, very direct. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't need to be like, and reference this, and I'm so sorry. And it's just like
Yes.
very direct. And I think that there's so much power in that. I'm totally a people pleaser too. And so I love like the short, sweet, direct scripts. Like that is so powerful. I love
Mhm. It
that.
makes it so
Were
easy.
there, looking back when you were starting to implement these boundaries, what were some of the biggest things where I know you shared the situation that kind of was the catalyst to all of this, but after that one big situation, what were some main areas where you're like, okay, definitely need to implement boundaries here too?
You mean after the first sweep, what other boundaries did I feel were slipping through the cracks?
Yeah.
I would say a big one was clients texting me.
Mhm.
And it's hard because I do allow clients to text when we're sending two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is just education. Not all clients are as tech savvy or have systems in their business. And so You just have to explain to them, hey, being able to communicate with you solely via email allows us to delegate things quicker, save links and images like with ease, and I can do this for you quicker if you email me. So it's hard. That's all I have to say.
No, I love that, which leads me to, from your story and hearing your story, a lot of the boundaries and systems you put into place have allowed you to work less. What were some, I guess, like big areas that were causing you like extra work hours that aren't like obvious to
I would say a big one
outsiders?
would be revision limits. As a agency, we oftentimes will send clients new content to review weekly, and we ask that they provide us with approvals. And now we have it so that they have a 48-hour window to do that, and they also get one round of edits. And so that forces them to instead be like, hey, let's say we design an Instagram story for them, and their feedback was like, can I see something different here? Because they get one round, they're going to then be like, hey, I'd rather focus this promotion on this product. Let's change the picture to highlight it or something. Like, it's really coming down to communication. And so we have one round of revisions, and if the client does need extra, we're happy to accommodate just at our hourly rate.
I love that. And how did you go about finding those areas in your business where boundaries needed to be set? Was it because of bad experiences that happened? Did you do a time audit? Was there an app that you used? What did that process look like in finding clarity?
I think it just came down to honestly personal satisfaction, personal job satisfaction for me and also for our account manager who deals with our clients the most. So we touch base and say, okay, what clients are we having the biggest headaches with, and what can we do to either enforce this boundary a little more, communicate this boundary better? I'd like to come from the perspective they just don't know. They forget that this is our boundaries.
Yeah.
It's important to come with an empathetic mindset to it.
So it was more so over time you're implementing these boundaries. It wasn't like all at once. Hi, here are 50 boundaries that I have in place. It was like
Exactly.
different situations.
Exactly. And my attorney did work with me to help me draft up an email where when I did need to get existing clients on the new agreement that had these boundaries in place, she helped me write in a concise way what sections were new and what the main call outs were, but why this was beneficial for them as well. Because then it meant we're not going to be spending all of our time doing extra revisions for other clients. So we can dedicate more of our time to doing creative work for each brand that we service. So it all works out.
What would you say to someone though who's at the beginning of their business? They haven't taken on a lot of clients, or they haven't done, maybe they're a solopreneur and they're not taking on clients, but they're building courses and things like that. What would you say to someone who's, hey, I'm wanting to set these boundaries so that way I don't get to a place in my business where I've scaled so much and I'm working 40, 50, 60 hours a
Yeah.
week? What would you say to them where they haven't really had those necessarily like situations
Okay.
where they,
Yeah.
oh, red flag, there needs to be a boundary here?
I think a lot of it comes down to your self-worth, which is we're getting deep, we're getting spiritual, but
I love it.
some people don't even have that self-awareness to realize I'm not being treated well right now, or I'm overworking myself, or it doesn't have to be this hard. And so if they put in some barriers, what are those things called? Bumpers at the bowling alley, that can just help them live life on easy mode a little bit. I think that really can help you change your game. So whether that's going to therapy or hiring a business coach, honestly, I highly recommend when you do one as a business owner, you should always do the other. They go hand in hand. Doing the internal work on yourself will always help your business and vice versa, because I don't think you can scale your business or really make drastic changes in your business at all if you still have the mindset of it's okay that clients treat me this way, or it's okay that I work all these hours when you don't have to be.
Yeah. And that makes me think about the conversation around work-life balance and what that looks like. And I think for me,
Mhm.
looking back on my journey, and this was actually, I had this light bulb moment. I went on vacation. It was like 8 months into my business. And prior to that vacation, I had been working 10, 12-hour days, ridiculous amounts of time. And I
Mhm.
was terrified to go on this vacation because my business is going to burn down. Like, I'm not going to, like, I'm going to come back and things are just going to be not good
Yeah.
for me. And so there was this light bulb moment of, okay, when I went on vacation and I came back and I was like, things are still running, I was like, oh, like something needs to be reevaluated here. Where am I spending all this time?
Yes.
Why am I spending all this time? And it made me really realize that I didn't have any sort of work-life balance. So my question for you is, I think a lot of times when we hear the word balance, we think, oh, it's 50-50, or our brains automatically go to, oh, a work-life balance is only working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. What would you say for you? I guess, what is the definition for you of balance? Does that make sense?
Mm, yeah. I think it will look different at different phases of my life. So right now, I'm actually 50 days out from my wedding today. It's literally 50 days
Ooh.
away. So I've been in a very, outside of work hours, I'm still busy. And so I have had to I've been talking with my fiance, and we're doing things to just try and make our life a little bit easier. Like we signed up for like meal prep service. So that way, like I can still, we're just trying to figure out ways like where can we, as fortunate people, I understand that like meal prep is something that not everyone can afford. Where can we invest our money so that we can still have quality time together and still run our business and have it be successful, but then also enjoy our time and be able to plan our wedding in a way where it's not necessarily stressful. That's something that we have agreed to do for the next couple of weeks as we are prepping for this wedding, which has been really nice. What was the other part of your question? I'm sorry, I blanked.
No, just what is the word like balance when you say,
Oh, yes.
what is that
Okay,
definition?
I remember where I was going with this. Yes. And so what I was getting at is that in the next couple of years, I'd like to start my family. And so you were just mentioning your maternity leave. And so I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in this phase of business right now where I have a good balance for where I'm at currently. But
Yeah.
I have my eye on, okay, I know I want to take a couple months of maternity leave down the road, God willing, when I get pregnant one day.
Yeah.
And I've already starting to think about what systems and processes and things like can I start automating or delegating or training my team on now so that it can run as smoothly as possible while I'm gone? Your boundaries can be defined in different ways. My boundaries can be different from someone else's boundaries on my team, and my boundaries today will be different than my boundaries when I'm a mother, I'm sure. It just all comes back down to like your preference, but that's the beauty of it. You get to decide.
I love that so much. And that conversation goes so well with everything that I've been talking about recently, because I did just come back from maternity leave and I truly have realized so deeply in this season of my life that there are different seasons of life that bring different things. Like consistency looks
Yeah.
different for me in this season of life. My boundaries also look different. The way my work day is structured looks so different in this season.
Yeah.
Like it's okay for it to look that way. And I think for and even to what does success look like in this season of my life, and it's okay for different seasons to bring different things. And I just think that's so powerful to not sit here and compare and be like, oh, Becca is implementing these boundaries or Maya's implementing these boundaries, I need to be implementing these too. And it's, you could be, and that could be helpful for where you're at in your business, but also it
Hmm.
might not make sense for where you're at in your business. And so I think,
Right.
I guess a question that I would have for you is, how often do you sit down and ask yourself, are there new boundaries that need to be implemented here?
Mm.
Do things need to change based off of the changing seasons of your life?
Yeah. And that's a good question. I feel like it's not something I have a reminder to do every 6 months or whatever, but I do keep a note on my phone where I'm like, huh, maybe it would be a better idea that instead of, this is an idea I've toyed with. Right now, I said that we bill our clients hourly for edits made past a deadline, right? But oftentimes those edits take us 10 minutes. So if we're billing, say our hourly rate is like $125 and this took us 10 minutes, we might be making $30. So I've considered, okay, do we do a flat fee of $60 per, what's something that is incentivizing enough to like get them to give us their true feedback in one go and be a better communicator, which is hard. But I just write these things down. And then when I feel like I have enough or it's substantial enough to actually change our agreement, our master service agreement or our contract, that's when I'll approach our lawyer and get it in writing and stuff.
I love that. The last question around boundaries that I have for you before we close off this episode is, you talk a lot about how boundaries have helped you and your clients and your team to increase your bottom line. What is bottom line for listeners who aren't familiar with that term? And how have these boundaries helped increase bottom line?
Yes, great question. So basically, it means that we have become more profitable as an agency with our expenses, with our team members, everything. We've been able to like take on higher paying work and make more profit off of it, even though we reduced our working hours as a team from 40 hours a week to 35, which I was shocked by. I actually didn't pull that number until November of last year. I knew obviously it was working. I was like, this is great. We're all working 35 hours a week. Nothing much has changed, but I didn't realize how much our business had grown. So it's really cool to see that. But part of the reason I think that it really has allowed us to remain more profitable is one, when you know you have 35 hours a week, and when you know that as soon as you finish your work for the week, you can log off at noon, you will do anything to be able to log off at noon. You're like, okay, what are the true like money making high level tasks that I need to accomplish in these 35 hours this week to be able to get to XYZ or make this account grow XYZ, whatever. So that's part of it. And I think my team comes from that mindset too. Everyone wants to work less and make the same. So I think it helps. And then also it helps with team retention too. I see less turnover with our employees because we're one of the few agencies in the area that has such great boundaries and work-life balance, and these reduced hours prevents me from having to spend time again rehiring and retraining. And we have a really great sense of company culture because of that. So I'm really proud of my team, and it's just been working really well for us.
I love that so much. And I think to anyone who's listening and thinking like, oh, that's cool. Becca does that and she works 35 hours a week. Or I think even people out there who are like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
4 hour workday, that's really popular too. It's yeah, that like far out of reach for me, but it's starting to implement little things over time. Starting to implement one boundary at a time is going to start working you towards
Yeah.
that goal. And I love what you said, focusing on the income producing activities, the things that are driving the
Yeah.
needle the most in your business. That is so key. And for me, this probably shouldn't happen. I probably shouldn't admit this, but for me, once a month, I have to sit myself down and remind myself, what are the income producing activities? What are the things that are really
Mm-hmm.
helping me to move the needle in my business? And sometimes it does take sitting down with yourself and having that conversation of, hey, am I spending my time doing the things that are
That
me
have to
towards
get
my
done this week. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times too, and this was a huge thing that I realized when I went on that vacation that I was talking about, and I came back and I was like, why am I working 10 to 12-hour days? There was so much fluff that I was filling my time with. And there were also so many places, like you were saying, there were boundaries that I needed to have put into place. And so I started working overtime to put those boundaries into place to really focus on the income producing activities. And for me, it was like starting from these 10 to 12-hour days. And then it was like, okay, now how can I work 8-hour days? Now how can I work 6 hours? It wasn't like, okay, how do I work from 10 to 12-hour days till 3-hour days? It was like, no, let's
Yes.
overtime. Yeah.
So true. Yeah. You have to think of it like, okay, if I only could work 20 hours next week, what would I do? And it really becomes easy to just cut out the fluff.
I love that. I
It's
love
nice.
that question. Okay. I have
Mhm.
a juicy question. My last question for you before I
Give it to
have you
me.
share where people can connect with you and what resources you have available for
Mhm.
them. My question is, if you were to give yourself one piece of advice, and let's just say you're on day one of your entrepreneurship journey, after learning all the things you've learned after 5 years of homemade social, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to yourself and why?
I would say the hardest pill to swallow from the beginning was I think the people closest to you sometimes have the hardest time supporting you in the beginning. Maybe right at first when you launch your company or whatever, they're going to be excited and reshare, but there's going to be crickets for a while where they don't support you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they are, they're just being silent about it. And you have to remember that they'll come around, they'll come back, they'll apply for job openings you have at your company. I think a lot of times, especially when my freelance journey started because I left a job. I remember a lot of people at that job like cut ties with me. I think because they wanted to be able to do the same and they were afraid to.
Yeah.
So they were just like, I don't know, there's just a lot of projections and that kind of stuff involved when you take a big risk and you're putting yourself out there. It can be scary, but just know that the real ones always come back and they'll be so proud of you and you can do it.
I love that so much. That was not at all what I was expecting, but also totally something that I can relate to. And I know that so
Right.
many others can relate to who are listening right now. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Of
Okay, where
course.
can people find you? And then also, what resources do you have available for people?
Okay, great question. We're on Instagram, TikTok. We're a social media agency, so you can find us anywhere. Homemade Social. There's actually an underscore at the end. No another account does not exist without the underscore, but it's one of those things where it says it's taken, but it's not. It's such a pain. Homemade Social underscore on Instagram. My handle is BBOOKS. My name is Becca Booker. I'm soon to be Becca Bunch. My last name's going to be like Becca Bunch. So I haven't decided if I'm going to change my handle yet. I could be B Bunch. I could go from B Books to B Bunch. We'll see.
I like
And then we have,
you.
I do too. I think it's cute. I think I already looked and it's taken, but we'll see. And then Homemade Social is on homadesocial.com. You can reach out to us anywhere and my team will get you in touch with me. But if you head to our shop on homadesocial.com, like I said, we have that contract template. We have boundaries template. I have a whole course on how I set up my social media agency around my systems and my boundaries. So we always try to provide resources where we can.
I love that so much. Thank you so much. You are a wealth of
Of
knowledge,
course.
and I've loved chatting with you. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Maya. You're a great interviewer. I appreciate it.